everyone, Kimberly Castleberry here with JustAskKim.com at hour 7 of this road trip. And I actually wanted to stop a little early in this hour because I've been coming through the Smoky Mountains in the U.S. and it's a really pretty hilly region, not the very rough, jagged, sharp peaks you have in some area. These are, while they're mountains, they're also over-glorified hills. It's very green, it's very lush, it's just very serene. And it's one of my favorite places in the world. And as I'm watching, as we go from this being very dark, very night, and you watch the sky start to subtly shift. And now you have this black that isn't quite black anymore, that has this little undertone in it. And when I talk in business about initial traction, when I talk about getting that initial traction in your business, it's this subtle color change. It's that subtle element as your business starts to pick up a little momentum. What does it mean when the equivalent occurs in your business? It means that you've been pushing against that boulder hard enough to finally start that boulder moving. Okay? This is the sign of initial traction. And as you get that boulder moving, the sky begins to lighten. And as you get that boulder moving, your traction gets better. And as you get some momentum, it gets easier to move that boulder, okay? And so the longer you're pushing, the more you're moving, the easier it becomes as this momentum builds. And you can see how you have a couple of things going on here because you have the ability to get this boulder moving at a pretty good rate. And to keep it moving is the key because unlike a sunrise, unlike the glorious views out here where although the sun isn't fully up yet, the sky says, the first morning rays are just a little mute at the moment. Unlike this where I know the sun will be fully out here within the next half hour, in business, if you take more than a couple days off, if you slack on yourself, if you give yourself too much permission and too much coddling, what you do is you step away from pushing that boulder with all your heart, and when you do, that boulder comes back to rest, and you go back to black. Well, actually, you go slowly. You go back to those dark colors. You go back to those dark grays, and it gets harder to push that boulder when you don't have that momentum, and it gets harder to get that boulder back up to speed again when you attempt to come back in and get it all rolling again. Okay, if you step away too long, if you let this boulder come to a stop, then you've got the problem that now you have no momentum. Okay, absolutely none. Step away too long, more than a couple weeks, you're going to come back and you're going to have almost nothing. Okay, now if you kept your list up during it, if you had a lot of traction initially, it's a slightly different matter. But when you're just getting started with a business, when you're just getting the groundwork in place and all the framework in place and just getting traction, this is critical that you understand that you have to take momentum and run with it. You have to understand that don't worry about the things that could go wrong. Don't worry about things that will go wrong. Don't worry about the things that aren't right and aren't ready and you're going to screw up and you don't know. Don't worry about them because the only key here is to get and keep that boulder moving. Okay? And a lot of people ask, how do I know when I've got initial traction? Well, unfortunately, initial traction doesn't come in with bells on. Initial traction doesn't come in with, lights and stars and fireworks and all that. Initial traction is subtle. Initial traction is an increase in your blog visitors. Initial traction is a couple more click-throughs of your sales page. Initial traction is an increase in mentions of your name on social media networks. Initial traction is beginning to get a decent opt-in rate on your site and have some interaction with your list members. Initial traction is listening across the social network, hearing people talk, filtering for your name, and finding somebody talking about you that you didn't even know knew you. Okay, it's these subtle little things. They're not the things that make you rich overnight. They're not the big glorified things. There's no hoopla. But you take that initial traction and you keep pushing the boulder. You don't give up just because now you see some results. Okay, celebrate. Definitely celebrate your wins. Celebrate those little wins. Celebrate those little victories. But don't stop moving forward, okay? You have to get in motion. You cannot have any results until you're in motion. And you don't have to get it right. You just have to get it started. What does that mean? It means your blog doesn't have to look right. It means all your widgets don't have to be there. It means you don't have to know how to use half the tools behind the scene. It means it can be pretty darn fugly and on a broken theme and all kinds of other nonsense. You know, I did that. My initial blog theme, if you'd use my search or several other utilities on my page, the whole theme would blow up. Oh yeah, it was lovely. You know, and just more recently, I've gone from Alexa ranking 200,000 to Alexa ranking 6,000, which is a huge change in Alexa ranking, which is my traffic numbers, on a site that's occasionally throwing 500 errors and not even bothering to load, okay? You don't have to get it right. You just have to get in action. And a lot of people have really chided on me. They're like, you're continuing to post and bring people to your blog while your blog doesn't look right? I'm like, hell yeah. You know, I'm not slowing down. And if it comes down to fixing the aesthetics, now I do have to fix the mechanical error. In my case, this time I have a mechanical error. I have to fix that. But if it came down to fixing the aesthetics or working on my marketing pages, I'm working on my marketing pages. Screw the aesthetics. You know, screw, you know, a whole lot of the little bells and whistles when I can be getting my marketing in place. And I can be pushing against that boulder, and I can be using that leverage, and I can be using it in a way that as I get it up to speed, I'm going to be able to monetize it, okay? It's not just enough to get out here and tread water. It's not just enough even to get out here and swim. You have to be swimming in a way that you're going to arrive at a goal and that you're going to get what you want out of this, okay? And so you have to take that approach of that initial traction and pay attention to it. Use it as a landmark. Use it as, you know, something you focus on initially. It's a nice initial landmark when you're just getting started to say, okay, do I have initial traction yet? Well, if you aren't seeing some of these things, you're still not there. You're still spinning your wheels. There's things you need to do yet. You know, lack of initial traction, if you've been in the business a while, says you're not doing things right. Lack of initial traction when you're just getting started, on the other hand, is to be expected. You do have to put your shoulder into the boulder and do the work. All right, I am going to go back to getting on the road and enjoying this beautiful sunrise that it looks like it's going to bring today. Love you guys, and here's to your success. Kimberly Castleberry, over and out.